Hi, I just wanted to share my experience of traveling with my daughter, who's 2.5 months old, Oakley, and my sister's daughter, Rosalie, who is 9 months old. My sister and I flew together. We flew from Spokane, Washington to Rapid City, South Dakota. Unfortunately, we had to have a layover in Salt Lake City, Utah, because there's no direct flights between Spokane and Rapid City. That did give us a good perspective on traveling with babies, and I felt like YouTube was missing a little bit of this information, so I wanted to share some of our experiences and how it went for us. The first thing I would suggest is avoid a layover if at all possible. This is always my philosophy, even without babies, because I figure the money you save in buying an indirect flight, you spend it on lunch and drinks and souvenirs, walking and coffee, walking through that third airport anyways. So buy a direct flight. That way you only have to get on and off a plane once rather than on and off a plane twice. Strollers and car seats fly for free with Delta, and I'm pretty sure they fly for free with most big airlines. We decided with both of our girls to not fly with our strollers and our car seats, and I've heard some horror stories about strollers missing wheels. We actually saw one lady walking through the airport whose stroller was down a complete wheel, and a lot of us pay a ton of money for these car seats, and you don't want them getting back super scratched. So what I did is I wore my 2.5-month-old on a front pack, and my sister rolled her 9-month-old in a small umbrella stroller, super cheap. It's actually one we've got used. I think she spent $20 on it or something. So it's not something she cared when she checked it at the gate that it came back scratched, because there's already a bunch of scratches on it. My baby, Oakley, doesn't love being in a front pack, but I thought that would be the easiest way to walk long distances through the airport. It ended up being okay. The Spokane airport is small, and when we went to TSA, 9 times out of 10, there's zero line, which was the case when we got there. So we quickly got through TSA and to our gate, and then I could take her off, lay her out on a blanket, change her diaper, and kind of give her time to stretch and get the wiggles out before we sat on the plane for the next 2 hours. TSA is probably the most stressful part, but you don't need to be stressed, especially if there's not a super long line. I feel like when there's not a super long line, the TSA agents are a lot more friendly, and they're able to help you kind of take what needs to be taken out and calm you down, because, at least my blood pressure tends to get higher during that situation. One airport, they asked us to take the wipes out and any food out. The other airport, they didn't. So just kind of go with the flow. My sister's 9-month-old has those squeezy pouches that she brought for the plane, and snacks and wipes and a few of diaper cream. And then I just left Oakley in my front pack. Walked through the metal detector. So when you're holding your baby through security, you don't go through that, I don't know, the more fancy one. You go through the old-fashioned metal detector, and then once you get through, they wipe that little small piece of paper on your hands, run it through the computer to check for whatever they're checking for, and then you're good to go. With the front pack, if you've ever worn it before, it's kind of hard to get your shoes on and off with the baby still in it. So wear shoes that are nice and easy to slip on and slip off. And then, we got to our gate. You can board early with children under 2. This was a small plane, though, so they didn't really give us that much time to get to the boarding area from the announcement. By the time we had picked up all of our blankets and got our babies ready to go, they were doing general boarding anyway, which is fine, because the shorter amount of time that you can spend on the plane, the better. I decided to hold Oakley on the plane because I didn't want to wrestle with removing her from the front pack on board the plane. So the hardest part is just getting, your baby in your arms, your diaper bag on your back, and then whatever else you're holding in your hands to safely board the plane. But once you've kind of figured out what order to put things in your arms, it gets easier, because you're going to have to do that quite a few times. And it got easier by the end, but definitely by the time we were heading home. My sister and her umbrella stroller worked out great. You just put one of those tags on that they give you at the gate, leave it at the end of the jetway, and then it's there when you get off the plane. When we were on the plane, it was a 3x3. It's COVID, so we kind of lucked out there because they're not filling middle seats. So we were able to put the 9-month-old in the empty seat. She could lay down, she could sit up, she could nap, she could do whatever. My 2.5-month-old is a little bit too young to really take advantage of an empty seat anyways. So that worked out just fine. One thing that we did not know is you need a ticket for your infants. Now, we didn't have to pay anything for this ticket, but I did have to tell Delta their name, middle, last, birthday, and all that information. Domestic flights, they do not need birth certificates. As of 2021, they do not need birth certificates. They just needed to be aware that there would be infants in arms and that they would be flying with 2 separate adults. As far as in the plane, the biggest thing that bugged her was the announcements. A lot of times the planes make these loud dinging noises before they tell you some useless piece of information. That seemed to happen just as she was falling asleep every time, and it would startle her awake and actually make her start crying a few times. The altitude, or the change in altitude, did not seem to bother her on the way up, but it did on the way down. And it was always right after they made the announcement that they were going to start making their descent. It was about like 3 minutes after that, and it would last for about 10 minutes. And then by the time we got further down and, closer to actually landing, she seemed to be okay. Now they tell you to make sure they're sucking, eating during these takeoffs and landings, which I fully planned on doing. However, when we boarded the plane, there's a lot of stimulus, and so she would kind of be starting to get fussy, and I would get a little bit paranoid that I was going to annoy my neighbors, so I'd breastfeed her, and then 30 minutes later, we haven't taken off yet. She's getting fussy again, so I'm feeding her. By the time we're actually taking off, she's sleeping and she's not hungry, and my boobs don't have any more milk. So I didn't end up nursing her on the takeoff, and she ended up doing fine. We did do a diaper change once on one of the planes, and it was really very hard. Super small changing tables in those airplane bathrooms, so if you can avoid that, do. If it's unavoidable, just be prepared that that's going to be kind of a tricky situation.